What's up, Waldwick? It's Kevin Davidson, and today I'll be conducting an interview with Kevin Lackey and Carson Benvenuto on the NFL Draft.
So to begin, who do you guys think's the best player in the draft? Katie, you start.
All right, so I didn't pick a quarterback for this question, so I picked Kyle Pitts because I thought that a quarterback would be too boring. So Kyle Pitts, he's an athletic freak. He's fast. He's big. He's strong, and he's faster than a lot of defensive backs. So I think that he's going to tear up the league. He's going to be a big threat. He can almost be like a slot wide receiver if he wants to, but he's going to be really big, and I think that he's going to tear it up in the NFL.
For the best player, I have Devontae Smith. He's the wide receiver from about Alabama, and I think he's just a monster. He's quick. He's tall. He's quick. He's fast. He's a bit on the smaller side, but as he tweeted, size doesn't matter, and I think he can very well back that up in the NFL.
Similar to KD, I also have Kyle Pitts. The guy's just an athletic freak. He's like 6'8", 240. I think he's very similar build to Kelvin Johnson, and even though they play two different positions, he heavily reminds me of him, and I think he's going to be a huge threat in the NFL, especially with the build that he has. So for the next one, who do you guys think is going to be the best quarterback in this draft?
For me, this is a no-brainer. I think it's a pretty common answer. I think it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. He's going to go number one to the Jags. And, he's big, he's tall, so he's going to be able to see over his line pretty easily. And he has crazy accuracy, and he has a pretty strong arm. He has, no weaknesses. I don't think he's going to blow it up his rookie year. I think he might, take it a little slow and, gradually get better. But I think that eventually he's going to be a star and a top 3 quarterback in the league.
For this question, I have Justin Fields. I've been following Justin Fields for a while, and I think he's just a great player. His play style is very similar to Patrick Mahomes. He has a very similar build to Dak Prescott. And I think whatever team drafts him is going to have a very fun time having him on their team.
For me, I kind of went with an odd pick in Zack Wilson. I feel like he's kind of a guy that not many people think of since he went to small school in BYU. And if you've watched him throughout his progression in college, you could just tell he has a love for the game, and his jump from his sophomore year to his junior year, where he had a lot of flaws, and now there are barely any weaknesses in his game, at least for what I can see. And the reason I didn't pick Trevor Lawrence for this is because there's some NFL people saying that he doesn't really have a passion for the game, and I just don't see that issue with Zack Wilson. So who do you guys think is going to be the biggest steal in this draft? Kevin,
for me, it's a guy you probably haven't heard of. His name is Diablo. He's a safety from Virginia Tech. He's projected to be a late-round pick. He might not even get drafted. But he's extremely fast. He ran a 4.4 140. He has super long arms, and he's just a ball hawk. So he can get to the ball really quickly. And with his long arms, he's really good at breaking up passes. He has dropped a few passes that I think should have been intercepted, but a breakup is a breakup and still a good play nonetheless. I think that he's probably going to go in the 5th to 7th round, around there. And I think that whatever team gets him is going to be really happy with their late round steal.
I picked Rashawn Slater as being the biggest steal. He's an offensive lineman who's just a beast. He's huge, he has the size, and he just reps out 225 like it's nothing. He's strong as anything, and I think he's going to be very similar to Tristan Wirfs, who came in his rookie year and just completely tore it up on the offensive line. I think he has that potential.
Alongside Lackey, I also have another lineman in that of Walker Little from Stanford. A few years back, he was projected to go as high as number 2 in the draft, but injuries derailed him last season, and he's fallen as low as 4th round in some mock drafts. If you've watched him play, the guy's an animal, and he's impossible to get by. And I think if you just give him some time to heal and recover from that injury, he's going to be an animal in the NFL. It doesn't really matter how many years he has lost. So who do you guys think's the biggest bust in this draft?
I think it's easily Mac Jones. I don't know. I'm no expert or anything, but I just don't see it in Mac Jones. Throughout his career at Alabama, he was surrounded by elite wide receivers and offense that run a lot of mesh concepts, which is just when the receivers run right close to each other, which kind of gets the defenders messed up and it gets them wide open. And they also run a lot of screen passes, which are just easy dump off throws for Mac Jones. I was never impressed watching him, and he's projected to go possibly 3rd to the Niners. and I'm just not a fan of that. I think that he's going to be a bust, and I just don't have much confidence in him. I think he's going to be pretty bad.
I think the biggest bust is going to be surprisingly Penei Sewell. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great player, but he's kind of, I don't know how to say it, he's almost immature when it comes to football. I don't know, but his footwork isn't the best on the offensive line, and he can make some good blocks, but sometimes he just misses easy blocks, and it's kind of, when you watch him, it's kind of like, what are you doing, man? So I think he's a great player, but I don't know if he has the potential to be a great early round draft pick, as everyone says he's going to be.
I personally have Caleb Farley, who's a corner from Virginia Tech. He's been thrown all around the first round in a lot of mock drafts. And the biggest thing with me is that he plays great on-ball defense, but because he's very athletic if you watch him play, but as soon as the ball's on the ground, he struggles to make tackles, and he doesn't play that well in zone coverage. Like I said before, he's excellent on one-on-one and anything relying on his athleticism, but when it comes to zone and anything past that, I just don't see him being successful in the NFL. And for the last question of the night, who do you guys think your favorite team's going to draft this year?
For me, if you couldn't tell by now, I'm a Washington football team fan, not to be confused with the Washington Redskins. I think they're going to get, I have to read his name, it's hard to pronounce, Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, I think is how you pronounce it, probably wrong. He's a linebacker from Notre Dame. He's really good in pass coverage, and he's really good just like stuffing the run and like screening passes. He's really quick, and he has really good reflexes. And I think that behind that defensive line that Washington's already built up, and their solid secondary, that he's just going to thrive. It'll make his job a lot easier. And I think that if he somehow falls to them, that it'll be a really good pick, and that he's going to be a stud linebacker if he does go to Washington.
My favorite team is the New York Giants, and I think they're going to be picking, if he's around by their pick, Devontae Smith. He's a great player, and the Giants have just been in love with him for as long as I can remember, ever since he started popping off as a football player. I also think they might be drafting Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State. He's an animal on the field, and the Giants' defense doesn't really need any work, but our one kind of like missing puzzle piece is a pass rusher, and I think he could fill that position. And then also there's talk of Dave Gettleman trading up in the draft, which hasn't done his 8 years of being the general manager of the New York Giants, for Penei Sewell. And I'm not too happy with that, as you heard my previous thoughts on Penei Sewell.
I'm personally a Ravens fan, and I think we need a second wide receiver, and I think that's Elijah Moore if he was to fall to us at 27. Similar to Caleb Farley, he's been thrown around all around the first round. But if he was to fall to us, I think he'd be a great slot receiver. He's extremely strong and extremely fast. You can tell watching him play, he doesn't have like great intangibles and footwork and all that type of stuff, but he's just so athletic and so fast that I think he's got all the natural abilities. If you give him some time in the NFL to develop, he'll be able to pick up those skills pretty easily and be a very big threat in the NFL.
Wow, that was interesting. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune into the NFL Draft on this Thursday.